friends, we're back. Thank you for joining us on our little trip to West Virginia last week. We just came back from Arizona. We met up with a guy. His name is called Wayne Thiebaud, and he is still very much alive. He just celebrated his 100th birthday. 1-0 and then another 0. This guy is so cool, and he is known for his colorful works of commonplace objects like pies and lipsticks and paint cans and ice cream cones and pastries and hot dogs. I mean, just simple things, landscapes, figure paintings, and he uses super thick paint strokes when he's doing his work. And his most two famous paintings, one called Two Jackpots, which sold in 2013 for $6.3 million. That's a lot of cash. And that was about 4 feet by 5 feet in dimension. But his most famous and most recently sold piece in 2019 was a piece called Encased Cakes. And that was done, he actually made that in 2010 to 2011, so it took him about almost a year to complete. And it depicts 5 very sumptuous cakes inside of a display case, and there's another cake at the top. And this sold for $8.46 million. That's a lot of cash. And this painting was about 6 feet by 4 feet. So Wayne Thiebaud uses values to create shadows in his artwork. He focuses a lot on shapes, on form, especially to create 3D form. He uses space and color and variations of line to create his artwork. Wayne Thiebaud rejected the label pop artist even though his work was included in the 1962 show New Painting of Common Objects. This was a very instrumental exhibit done in 1962, which formalized pop art as an actual movement. He said no. He said no, I am not a pop artist. He wanted to be his own person, and he wanted to create art for the way that he felt art should be created. He worked for Walt Disney Studios in their animation department, and at one point in his life, he served in the Air Force. He was assigned to the Special Services Department as an artist and cartoonist. That is so awesome. For the next 2 weeks, I would love to see you try at least 2 of the following 3 assignments that I have listed below. So we have our version of Wayne Thiebaud's clown cones, or cake slice, and this one is optional. If you have the materials, you can try this. Our version of Wayne Thiebaud's cupcake. And this one requires some paint, or you can do the same version without color pencils, markers, crayons, and so forth. All right, friends, I will see you on the drawing board. Hey friends, today we're going to do our version of Wayne Thiebaud's cake slice. So for today's lesson, you will need a blank sheet of paper, an eraser, pencil, and a Sharpie. If you don't have a Sharpie, a black marker or a black color pencil or a black crayon would work. Color pencils, crayons, or markers, whatever you prefer. So I'm going to go ahead and clear my board, and I'm actually going to go straight into using my Sharpie. That way you guys can see my lines as I create them. Be sure to use a pencil if you need to before you outline. I'm going to start off with a square shape, but I'm going to turn it at an angle so it kind of looks like a kite. There's 1 diagonal line, 2 diagonal lines. So it almost has that look of a diamond or a kite. Okay, and I'm going to create almost like a triangle on this part, and this is going to help create the form of that 3-dimensional look. I'm going to curve that part. And I'm going to draw a straight line right here. That's going to help me with my cake slice. And I'm going to do the layers on the inside. I am actually going to do little rectangles instead. So one, I'm going to do 3 layers. One rectangle. Two. And let's do one more. And if you were to cut a 3-layer cake, this is what it would look like on the inside. Perfect. And so we're going to draw the plate that your cake slice sits on, and that has almost like a circular shape. I want to try not to go straight through the cake at the very top. Almost looks like it disappeared behind that piece of slice of cake and then it reappears again. Wonderful. And we'll do the very side of your plate. That helps with our form and our perspective, that it's got a little bit of 3 dimensions. So here's one side here. And I'm going to go ahead and create the illusion on this side. And I'm going to just connect these 2 lines right here. Great. And for the most part, I'm just going to leave it like this. I'm going to use my pencil, and my pencil is going to help me mark out where I want to create my darker values, and that's actually going to be the shadow of the cake casting onto this part of the plate. I did a very light line. I'll make it a little bit darker so you can see. I'm actually going to erase that line afterwards. And my shadow is actually going to be slightly curved because it's going to cast a little bit of shadow over here. And it's going to connect here. There. So my shadow from my cake is actually going to be here. I'm going to pretend like a light bulb is over on this side. If I have a torchlight here or a flashlight and I shine a piece of a little bit of light here, I'm definitely going to get shadow on this side. Okay? Alright, and now we are going to add some color, and this is where it gets tricky. I'm going to start with my pink layer. So I'm actually going to use a marker and a crayon. So I'm going to do a darker part here, because this is where my cake is going to be a little bit darker. There's a little bit of icing or frosting that happens right there. And right at the bottom of my cake, it's going to be a little bit darker because it's a little moist. And you can do the same with a colored pencil. I'll use a colored pencil for the second layer. And now I'm going to finish my color with the crayon. Okay, and my second layer is actually a white layer, but you can't see the white layer, so we are going to use slightly yellow. And if you have 2 shades of yellow, you can use the 2 shades of yellow. I will use an orange and a yellow, and this is going to help you see the dark coloring. So I'm going to create the dark parts here first. Very similar to my pink layer. Around the edges where your icing would be slightly darker because it's a little bit on the moist side. And then I'm going to fill it in with my yellow. Of course, if you're using paint, it's very different. If you're using paint, be sure to add white to lighten your areas. That way you get a nice value or a nice tint consistency. And my last layer, I want to have a chocolate layer because I do love chocolate. So I'm going to go ahead and use some browns. Okay. And again, similar to my first two layers, I'm going to create my darker filling with my darker. The ends are going to be darker. And then fill the rest with your brown. Of course, what do you do if you only have one color brown? You press lighter for most of it, and towards the edges, you press darker. Okay. We will do that skill. Let's do our icing. So our icing has like almost like a beige, a very light, subtle look. I'm going to use pink and I'm going to use a goldenrod color. So I'm going to create light areas here, and I'm showing you how we can create lights and darks with just one color. If you're like me and right now you only have one color pencil going, you press darker on the areas that you want to create the illusion that it's darker. So I'm pressing darker down here, and it gets lighter up here. It's going to get really nice and light up here because there's a strong sense of light right there. And when you are coloring, you always want to color in the direction of your object. That helps with create the illusion of the form. Okay, and let's go ahead and create our icing here. Here's my brown again. And I'm going to go into my peach because I want it to create the illusion that it's a little bit lighter at the very top of my cake. And now I'm coloring out. I'm sort of blending these two colors in. There we go. And we want a nice color contrast, so we're going to create a blue plate. That way all these colors kind of pop. Let's use crayons for this, since most of our friends in the lower grades might use crayons. Let's use blue. So we want to, when we want to color in the direction of our shape, and that helps create the form or that three-dimensional look. So if my shape is a circle or an oval shape, I don't want to color left to right because it's going to make my plate look flat. When I color, I want to kind of create more of like a round motion. So I'm going to color in a rounded motion. Right about here, I can just do this. So my hand motions are curved. In the same application, when you are using paints, you always want to help your form by painting in the direction that it happens to look in. So here's my blue, and I'm going to stop where I have those lines. And I want to show you something with those lines because we want to have a slightly different value. Okay, so we have a nice plate, dessert plate, that kind of has that round shape. So we want to continue the round shape, but we have marked off where our shadow would appear. our shadow is actually not black. It just looks a little bit darker color than our plate, and that creates the illusion that there's a shadow. So here I am, I'm still using the same crayon, and I'm just going to press a little bit darker, a little bit harder, I should say. And same rule applies. I am curving my strokes, my color strokes, and this is going to help create that three-dimensional form. There we go. And that's going to help with that shadow. Do you see where the shadow looks like it's being cast from your cake? Now the shadow goes off the plate. There's a little bit here. So now we want to figure out what color you want to use for the rest of your drawing, okay? The rest of your illustration. So let's use, this is a nice apricot color. So we're going to use this color. We'll come back in and finish the tail end of the plate. It's really nice and light. Sometimes you need to turn your paper sideways, and you can turn your paper sideways as long as your direction of line is in the same and it's very consistent. Keep your lines consistent in direction. Okay, and now we're back to here. So we have originally mapped off this area that we were going to create darker, and this was going to help the illusion of a shadow. So I'm going to keep, I'm going to turn this slightly this way. I'm going to keep the direction of my lines the same, very consistent, but when I am within my frame or that line that I made, I'm going to press darker. And I'm using the same color. Sometimes I use my hand or my fingers to help guide. So that way I stay within a line. It's the same color. All I did was press darker. And now you have the illusion that that shadow is coming off of the plate, going onto that table. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish off the bottom here. Let's find my blue that I started using. And my my plate has a little lip where this part happens, so it's going to be a slightly little darker right as it connects because there's a shadow that happens over the plate. And then the rest I'm going to curve this way. I'm not curving it this way, I'm curving it almost like a vertical line, if you would. And now it's going to be really nice and straight, and now I'm going to curve it in the other direction going this way. And there you have it, friends, our version of Wayne Thiebaud's cake slice.
That was super awesome, super cool. All three, my favorite. I can't pick a favorite. Can you pick a favorite? No, I'm super hungry now because all this talk about food is just making me hungry. Wayne Thiebaud was an American artist born in Arizona. He is still very much alive. He is known for his colorful works of commonplace objects like pies and lipsticks and paint cans, ice cream cones, pastries, hot dogs, landscapes, figure drawings. And he is especially known for his thick use of paint strokes. And this is for his works that he really tries to focus in on using value in his shadows, forms, shape, space, color, and a lot of variations of lines. This guy is so awesome. And he
really rejected the label pop artist at one point in his life, even though he was included in the 1962 show New Painting of Common Objects. And this is the instrumental exhibit that made pop art known as a movement itself. He worked for Walt Disney Studios in the animation department at one point, and he also served in the Air Force. He was assigned to the Special Services Department as an artist and cartoonist. This was so wonderful. I am just super hungry now, and I just want a lot of dessert. Do you? Yeah, green crayon is just like, okay, get off now, get off. Let's go get some dessert. Okay, does anybody know where I can get a really super bright, beautiful chocolate cake now? Oh, I love chocolate cake. Okay, I'm gonna get some chocolate cake and some vanilla ice cream. Me too. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, we forgot you were there. All right, friends. See y'all later. Take care.